So today I'm going to be assembling my bullpup Eclipse mag-fed marker. I'll be assembling the Mark II, which is the first version I feel is probably field ready. There's some updates to it, but it's pretty cool and I want to share it with y'all. So to start, the EMF 100 is this. This has a AFG and that barrel and a trigger, but for the most part, you know, this is your standard EMF. This is what I started with. Sort of. From this, I then used just the main core, right here. So let me walk you through the building of my bullpup. So these are all the parts that go into my bullpup kit, or my BEMF Mark II. I'm going to walk you through a couple of the smaller parts before doing a full assembly. So this kit is 3D printed, literally unless it's metal or the EMF core or this grip, it's printed. So I have some resin prints in small mechanical bits on the inside of the magwell, the switches, the trigger group housing. This is a flexible TPU for the buttstock. And then the rest of this is currently in a matte PLA because I'm still developing it and it's not worth the time and expense of an SLS or even an ASA print. So, yeah. Let me clear the table and we'll talk about the main bit, which is this lower assembly here. So this is the lower receiver. This is one monolithic printed part right here. I have the pins already installed. I guess I could take those out. This has QD points on either side. This is a 3D printed mag release, but it's identical to the one on the original EMF. And it houses the trigger group and the regulator. So I'm going to set that aside and let's talk about those parts. So one big thing that I had to do in order to get the whole EMF to be a fair bit shorter is get a smaller air pipe. The air pipe that's in the original EMF is this black one. And as you can see, it's a little bit different. Yeah. This one is 30 millimeters shorter, a little over an inch. And it helps shrink the frame inside this rear buttstock to a slightly more reasonable size. All right, so then that goes in there. This is a, perfectly stock EMF three-way. And then the transfer block and the transfer tube. All of these go into this valve group housing. This is a quick and dirty PLA print, but this allows me to a little more easily work on, maintain, and install the valve group without having to try and get fairly deep into the housing of this, and also if I make alterations, it made it faster for that. Then the trigger pin also makes it a whole lot easier to install this trigger link pin. Alright, once that's in, this just sits right in here. There we go, one click. And then takes a cross pin to hold the group in place. There are two covers on either side, one cover on either side of the lower. Those are for inspection, so that I can take one off and inspect to see if the trigger pin's being depressed or whatever, but also for covering up pinholes so that I don't have to worry about a pin coming loose over time and falling out. Once that's installed, the next bit is the regulator. Now, this might look a little bit funny because this is the stock regulator, which is great, and a stock EMEC ASA. And the stock EMEC ASA does not have an on-off, which is why I used it instead of the one that came with the EMF. And then I cut off the tank threads, which is the silver you see there, plugged the air hole that originally runs from the tank, plugged that, and then drilled and tapped this remote line fitting, and I did it with a drill and a vise and not a drill press, so it's actually crooked, but it does hold air, so works for that. I forgot to mention a shout out and a thank you to Super Stanchy Customs, Ryan Stanchfield, for the that little silver custom air tube. He made me that. Alright, that sits in. And then 2 screws hold the regulator in. Same, can be the same screws that are in the ASA on the EMF, but I chose black ones. Although stainless steel is what Eclipse uses, and that's always a good choice. These 2 holes, if you're curious, are holdovers. You can barely see them. From when the lower was attached with screws, but I have switched to a pin design to kind of make it a little bit more toolless, quicker for testing, and also I like it for maintenance. This is the, I don't know the proper word, I guess linkage bar or sear pin that goes in there that actually pushes on that silver pin in there to actually make it go bang. But for testing purposes, when installing this on the marker, and for testing purposes, I found that that could get in the way, and I'll show you why later. So this lower actually has a little, and it's very hard to see, but you'll trust me, there's a screw right here. And it's kind of like a backup trigger, and you can't use it when there's a magazine in the marker. But it allows me to push on this when it's installed so that, sorry, as I line this up, I can't talk, chewing bubblegum, to get the sear head out of the way of the linkage arms. All right, I use a 2-part pin because I don't have a single pin that's the right size. Once that's in, there's 2 springs to help the sear bar reset, which also helps reset the linkage rods. And that is, in a quick and dirty fashion, the lower receiver. All right, so the next step is the body. So this is 3D printed with an aluminum body, or the aluminum core. I've already got the bolt installed. I've got to put this hopper cover in. And then I can begin sliding this in. Then I have to get, oops, see, went too far. This, and these are the all-thread linkage arms. So these actually go through and link to the trigger, and then the trigger pulls this forward, and that pulls the lever here that then pushes on the trigger. It's a little complicated and it's not the smoothest thing in the world, but it's not terribly mushy and it's very short, so it works rather well. With this installed, I am going to put the detent covers in. These go in so that I can remove those and put them in if I need, without having to worry about taking the whole thing apart and sliding the body out, because that's a pain in the ass. So, there we go. The screws are partially captive in the detent covers, and then that is the main body. Now, I have marked in gold Sharpie, so I'm going to put these 2 screws on. Alright, before I put the front 2 nuts on, I have to put the trigger frame on. The trigger frame is printed with resin printed for the safety switch, although that's not working in this model because I just switched to a metal trigger. This helps, I was having some trigger breaking issues when I printed the triggers, and now it's a metal airsoft trigger with a inside of a little block, inserts down from the top, a pin holds the block in, kind of like the valve lower, or valve group. This then slides onto this rail portion on the bottom. And I'm an idiot and broke that. Then this holds in with one screw. It's mostly just to hold this from sliding off the front. It doesn't actually, I think, keep any weight or anything like that. I'm going to wait a minute to put the grip on, put the transfer block on, and then put the front two screws in. Okay. Nope, I'm breaking that again. The other benefit to having all thread is that this is adjustable for testing purposes. So we can see here the action. I'll do it right side up. So if my finger is the spring that's in the back of that, when we pull on it, that does the reset of the trigger. Technically we'd be in fire, but like I said, the safety isn't working right now. To fix the small little breakage I want, this is the rail block. It goes on top. It also has a pinhole up front for the handguard, although this model doesn't actually line up. And then an all thread that slides all the way through the body to help with compression so that I don't break it in the middle, I hope. Alright, with that sliding in, I then need a nut to go into the back here. The front screw is the shape of the nut, and so I don't need a wrench on the front, I just have to put one on the back. And now this is affixed in place, this is affixed in place, and we can install the grip and then the lower. And I'm going to do it that way just so I can hold from there for a little bit. Okay. Technically, if I wanted right now, we could put the handguard on, but I like to, when installing the lower, have the handguard off so that I can see and move the transfer bar if I need to, or the linkage rods. Okay, with those in, I have to make sure both pins are clear. See, that's in the wrong pin spot. Okay, make sure I've got that gasket. Okay, so tab up front, just like the original EMF lower. And then this is where those get in the way. Pin 1.5. Pin 2. Sorry, it's hard to do upside down. And now, to test, we can see why we're jamming. Nope, something's not happy. Loosen that up. There we go. So it was jammed a little bit. Again, that's why I have that inspection window, so I can look at it. But that is literally the trigger pull for reference. All right. With the lower on, I'm actually going to leave the pin covers off because I think I am going to air this up. And so we'll demonstrate that. Let's put the barrel in. So this 14-inch barrel, I'm using this just a generic branded with M22 front threads, and it's an autococker threaded barrel. Pardon the squeaking. Once it's on, the handguard, which is technically free-floating, it's not supporting the barrel, or the barrel isn't supporting the handguard. There we go. And a pin to hold the handguard in, so no screws there. There is a pinhole up here for a second pin, because I thought it would be necessary when designing it. But in reality, the rail and pin hold it in a great place. I'm not sure I'm going to have a pinhole in future models. I also don't have a pin small enough for that. I can go ahead and put the buttstock on, which is designed to be held in place with a pin, but I ran out of pins. So because it's TPU and the way it sits in there, it actually holds a screw in just fine for these purposes. And we'll put a muzzle in. As you can see, the 14-inch barrel comes pretty much perfectly flush with the handguard. So any muzzle attachment has to be narrower at the bottom, and this 3-prong that I have fits quite nicely. And that is an assembled bullpup EMF MK2. And then of course it's a rail, so optics, and it's M-lock on the sides, so rail, flashlight, whatever. This carbine handguard has 1.5 slots of M-lock, and the hand stop interferes if you put a rail there with putting a grip on, so it's really suited only for putting like a vertical grip or a short angled grip on. But that is my bullpup. Let me get a magazine in this. Alright, to make it go bang, air it up. This magazine has the PE followers in, so that was the bolt stopping early, and then full bang. Very loud. For reference. And to see in there. And it works pretty well. I'm very happy with this project. So, thank you for watching.